Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Corpus Christi, meaning Body of Christ in Latin, is a feast of paramount importance in the Christian liturgical calendar, especially within the Roman Catholic Church. It commemorates the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, one of the core tenets of Catholic theology. The feast, celebrated on the Thursday after Trinity Sunday, has profound roots in biblical events and has evolved significantly through history, shaped by visions, theological debates, and centuries-old traditions. This story delves into the biblical origins, historical developments, theological significance, and contemporary practices of Corpus Christi, revealing its deep spiritual and cultural resonance. Biblical origin of Corpus Christi. The story of Corpus Christi begins in the New Testament, where the foundations of the Eucharist are laid out during the Last Supper. This pivotal event, recorded in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, as well as in Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, marks the institution of the Holy Eucharist by Jesus Christ. The Last Supper. In the Gospel of Matthew 6:26-28, it is written, "While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, 'Take and eat, this is my body.' Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, 'Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins.'" This moment is mirrored in Mark 14:20-24 and Luke 22:19-20, each emphasizing Jesus' symbolic yet profound act of breaking bread and sharing wine, representing his body and blood. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 11:23-26, further reinforces this tradition, where Paul recounts the Last Supper with the words of Jesus, emphasizing the significance of the Eucharist in Christian worship. "For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." These passages collectively form the biblical foundation of the Eucharist, illustrating its deep-rooted significance in Christian theology as a remembrance of Jesus' sacrifice and a celebration of his presence. Historical development of Corpus Christi. The formal recognition and celebration of Corpus Christi as a feast day, however, came much later, influenced by visions and theological reflections in medieval Europe. St. Juliana of Liège. The establishment of Corpus Christi as a feast is closely linked to St. Juliana of Liège, a 13th-century Belgian nun. From a young age, Juliana experienced visions in which she saw the church under a full moon with a dark spot, symbolizing the absence of a feast dedicated to the Blessed Sacrament. Interpreting these visions as a divine mandate, she dedicated her life to advocating for a feast honoring the Eucharist. Juliana's persistent efforts eventually caught the attention of Robert de Thorady, the Bishop of Liège, and Jacques Pantalon, the Archdeacon of Liège, who later became Pope Urban IV. In 1264, Pope Urban IV issued the papal bull Transiturus de hoc mundo, officially establishing the Feast of Corpus Christi. This marked the beginning of a widespread liturgical celebration dedicated to the Eucharist. Papal recognition and spread. The papal bull Transiturus de hoc mundo was a significant milestone, as it recognized the Feast of Corpus Christi and mandated its celebration across the Catholic Church. Pope Urban IV entrusted the composition of the liturgy for the feast to the renowned theologian St. Thomas Aquinas, who created the hymns and prayers that are still used today, including the famous hymn Pange Lingua. Despite its official recognition, the spread of Corpus Christi faced initial resistance and took several decades to become universally observed. However, by the 14th century, the feast had gained widespread acceptance and became an integral part of the liturgical calendar. Theological meaning of Corpus Christi. The theological significance of Corpus Christi is deeply intertwined with the Catholic doctrine of the Eucharist, particularly the concept of transubstantiation, understanding the Eucharist. In Catholic theology, the Eucharist is not merely a symbolic representation, but the actual body and blood of Christ. This belief is encapsulated in the doctrine of transubstantiation, which teaches that during the consecration in the Mass, the substances of bread and wine are transformed into the body and blood of Christ, while retaining their accidents or appearances. This doctrine finds its roots in the biblical accounts of the Last Supper, and has been affirmed by numerous church councils and theological treatises. The celebration of Corpus Christi emphasizes this mystery, inviting the faithful to reflect on the profound gift of Jesus' sacrifice and presence in the Eucharist. Symbolism and significance. The Feast of Corpus Christi serves as a powerful reminder of the central role of the Eucharist in Christian life. It symbolizes the unity of the Church as the body of Christ, nourished and sustained by the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. The celebration underscores the importance of the Eucharist as a source of grace, strength, and spiritual nourishment for the faithful. Corpus Christi in liturgy and tradition. The liturgical and traditional practices associated with Corpus Christi are rich and varied, reflecting the deep reverence for the Eucharist within the Catholic Church. Eucharistic processions. One of the most distinctive features of Corpus Christi celebrations is the Eucharistic procession. During these processions, the consecrated host is carried in a monstrance, often through the streets of towns and cities, accompanied by prayers, hymns, and the faithful. These processions serve as a public witness to the belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and bring the blessings of the sacrament to the wider community. The tradition of Eucharistic processions dates back to the medieval period and has evolved over the centuries. In many regions, these processions are elaborate events featuring floral carpets, banners, and stops at decorated altars for benedictions. The processions not only honor the Eucharist but also foster a sense of community and shared faith. Liturgical practices. The liturgical celebration of Corpus Christi includes the Mass and the recitation of the Divine Office. The hymns composed by St. Thomas Aquinas, such as Pange Lingua, Tantum Ergo, and O Salutaris Hostia, are integral parts of the liturgy, enriching the celebration with their profound theological insights and poetic beauty. The Mass for Corpus Christi includes special readings and prayers that highlight the significance of the Eucharist. The faithful are encouraged to reflect on the mystery of transubstantiation and the gift of Christ's presence in the sacrament. Regional variations. While the core elements of Corpus Christi celebrations are consistent, there are notable regional variations that add to the richness of the feast. In some parts of Europe, particularly in Spain and Portugal, Corpus Christi is celebrated with grand processions featuring traditional costumes, folk dances, and intricate flower carpets. In Latin America, the feast often includes indigenous cultural elements, blending Catholic and local traditions. These regional variations reflect the adaptability and universality of the Catholic faith, allowing different cultures to express their devotion to the Eucharist in unique and meaningful ways. Corpus Christi in contemporary practice. In contemporary times, Corpus Christi continues to be an important feast, with modern practices reflecting both continuity and adaptation. Modern-day significance. The celebration of Corpus Christi remains a vibrant expression of faith for Catholics around the world. In many places, the feast has taken on a renewed significance as a public affirmation of belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. The processions and liturgical celebrations serve as powerful witnesses to the enduring relevance of the Eucharist in the lives of the faithful. Ecumenical dialogue. Corpus Christi also provides an opportunity for ecumenical dialogue and unity among Christians, while the doctrine of the Eucharist differs among various Christian denominations. The shared reverence for the sacrament can serve as a basis for mutual respect and understanding. In some communities, Corpus Christi processions and celebrations include participation from other Christian denominations, fostering a spirit of unity and collaboration. Community engagement. In many parts of the world, Corpus Christi celebrations have evolved to include broader community engagement. In addition to the traditional liturgical practices, there are often charitable activities, educational programs, and cultural events associated with the feast. These initiatives highlight the social dimension of the Eucharist, emphasizing the call to service and solidarity with those in need. Conclusion. The true story of Corpus Christi is a rich tapestry woven from biblical origins, historical developments, theological reflections, and diverse cultural traditions. From the Last Supper, where Jesus instituted the Eucharist, to the visions of Saint Juliana of Liège and the papal establishment of the feast, Corpus Christi has evolved into a profound celebration of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Through its liturgical practices, processions, and contemporary adaptations, Corpus Christi continues to be a powerful expression of faith, inviting believers to reflect on the mystery of the Eucharist and its central role in Christian life. As we celebrate Corpus Christi, we are reminded of the enduring gift of Jesus' sacrifice and the call to live out our faith with reverence, unity, and service.